the hardest thing is in Jiu-Jitsu is to learn details. That's why Jiu-Jitsu takes such a long time for you to get your black belt. We ask all the black belts here, how long have they been training for them to reach the black belt? For you to be good at Jiu-Jitsu, it's difficult. Because it's very difficult for you to learn all the techniques all the details of the techniques you learn. If you think in 1 year journey, when you Jiu-Jitsu from day one to after that year, you're still a white belt. Average people train, let's say twice a week. It's 52 weeks a year. It's 104 classes you attend. In my school, you learn, let's say, 2 techniques per class. That's over 200 techniques. You should be a master. 200 moves. How many more you want? I'm not good in 200 moves. I'm good at the ones that I'm really good at it. I can count them in my hands. The rest I can be good at it, but the ones that you're really good is very, very few. You get all the top Jiu-Jitsu players. They're great in a few moves. If you see that they're competing, it's a cycle. Over and over, they go sort of the same again. Jiu-Jitsu is not that broad for you to be that good. You don't have to be good in 100 things. You have to be good in 10. If you're really good in 10, you can catch people. But applying that against the person fighting back, it takes years and years and years for you to be good at one move. It's very hard. Why? Details. Jiu-Jitsu is on the details. The difference between making a grip in the collar here or deeper is the whole secret between working or almost working. That's why Jiu-Jitsu is so hard. Remember the details. It's small movements. Kimura from side control. How many different ways of attacking Kimura do you need to learn? One. You don't have to learn more. Be good at one, you catch everyone. So it's that's the hardest thing in Jiu-Jitsu. Remember the details and everything that you learn and you're trying to improve into your game. Don't think I'm trying something, it's not working. I'm going to try something completely different. You change one thing, that technique will work. A lot of the things I learned, I was able to apply 2 years later. It's normal because I changed one thing. The whole technique was exactly the same, but now instead of grabbing the elbow, I'm grabbing the hand. The technique suddenly 2 years later, it worked. It was one click. That's why Jiu-Jitsu is so hard. Focus on the details. Don't think you want to learn completely new things. After a few years that you've been training, you learn enough moves to support you forever. After 3 years, you don't need to learn a whole set of moves. I'm not good enough. I'm just a purple belt. For me to be a black belt, I need to know those moves. No, you don't. You need to get those moves that you already know and make them work. That's the hardest thing in Jiu-Jitsu. Don't try to, suddenly I'm going to learn a miraculous submission that's going to catch everyone. That does not exist. There's no go have a saving technique that somebody's going to catch all your training partners. No, you got to learn what change what you already know and make it work. If you do that, that's the best way to learn, to improve, Not constantly keep learning new things to do. Anyway, guys,
do people come in and focus too much on the sexy stuff like the submissions rather than the escapes and getting the fundamentals and the basics right? Where do you see people going wrong when they start jiu-jitsu or return to it?
First is ego. First is people's ego. Like men, we have a lot of ego. We hate to lose. So, I think for a man to accept defeat to another man is very hard. So you're going to use as much power as you can not to lose to the other person. Like a kid has no ego. Like you watch a kid's class, you watch 2 kids training. They will accept being under pressure, being in a bad position and still be very relaxed. Kids, they don't care. They can get swept, they can get mounted, they roll around one place to the other, and they do all that being very relaxed. You don't see them like powering the way out of that. That does not happen with adults. Adults, they will muscle their way out, not because they won't accept defeat. They won't accept being defeated by another man because of the ego. Like I can't be defeated, to that person, so I'm going to try to muscle my way out of that. I think that's the main thing with a man, with adults, with us when we are adults. Is first is like we have our ego won't let us relax because we can't lose. Because when you're learning, the learning process, I mean, you will be put in a bad position. You get caught. So if you leave the ego on the side, you will not going to try to muscle your way out of that. So in that process, if you don't do that, you'll be developing your technique because you will try not to get caught, but not maximize, using all your as much power as you can. So people with a lot of ego, they take much longer to learn because they will try to rely on power as much as they can. That's why smaller people, they will always much more technical than big guys, because big guys, they're just going to try to overstrength everybody because they're big. They're not going to be relaxed. They're not going to accept being beat up by someone half their size. The small guy, he has no choice. Doesn't matter how much strength and power he uses, they will never be able to defeat a much bigger opponent with their strength because the other guy is just going to power his way through. So they end up developing the defense skills and the technique way more than a big guy.
Yeah, it's like you're describing me there. I remember when I started, I was just in there going, yeah, definitely did that. How do we lose that then? How do we lose that curve, that ego? Is it just putting yourself under, getting swept in the pressure? Because I think, was it Helio that mentioned about using jiu-jitsu as a sort of life philosophy? How do we use it to grow, to lose the ego, to build confidence, but sort of understand we're there to help our teammates to be the best version of ourselves, not care about tournaments and wins and stuff, but actually grow as a person as much as developing your jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I think that comes with practice, for sure, because eventually you will see that the repetition of the training, you will tell you that muscling in your way is not always going to help, because it might help with training someone your level, your size, or somebody smaller. But the moment that you, like when you're a beginner, when you're white belt, let's say you just train with white belts. But the moment that, let's say, you get your first color belt, which is the blue belt, and now you're starting to, you have enough skills to train with purple belts, right? The white belt's not really going to train with purple belt, but the blue belt will. So when you get to train with someone much higher, a lot more skilled than you, doesn't matter how much strength you use, he's still going to catch you. But you will see his example that he's not stiff. So you will see it, first-handed, that power is not going to help you much. So for you to become good, you have to become skillful. That's when you start relaxing more and more, because you will see that power only going to get you up to a point. It's not going to, you will create a barrier, because you're not going to beat someone much better than you with power. You will still lose. And the technique, and first you get too tired, right? People that use a lot of energy and a lot of muscles, they get tired very quickly. And then, when you're tired, it's suddenly you drop like your skills, and, you become as if you're blue belt, you're tired, you're white belt. Because now you cannot defend yourself because, your skills are your strength. So you learn on the process. The more you train, the more you see that you cannot rely on power. And if the people that use a lot of power, so that means their body is very stiff. So it's much easier to get injured. Because if you're resisting, you're holding for dear life, and then suddenly one pulls, like, you pull a muscle or something, you will injure yourself. People that use too much power in training, they always injure.
Hello everyone, it's Roger Gracie, and today you'll see a series of videos I did on guard passing. So I did a lot of different scenarios, of different ways to open people's closed guard. I showed one of my favorites, a few others that I've been working on, and a few others that, regardless of size, anyone can use. And I did try to focus on my pressure pass. There's some other variations of guard pass, but I try to focus on pressure pass, which I think is extremely important